Hi, my name is Karen Monet, and I'm the founder and CEO of Opticom Visual Stress Solutions. Today, I will be interviewing Emma, a university student who struggled with visual stress throughout high school. Watch, and you will learn how she managed her symptoms and how her precision-tinted lenses have helped her at school and for everyday tasks. So let's get to it. So, hello, Emma.
Hello,
Thank you
Karen.
so much for joining me today for this interview. It's been, a year since we saw you?
Yeah.
It's been a busy year.
Oh, yeah.
Not only COVID, school. So that was your first year away at university?
Yeah.
So where were you going? What were you studying?
I went to Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, and I'm my first year into a 4-year psychology Bachelor of Arts.
Good. And how did you find it? Living away and university?
You know, there's some freedoms with it, but I definitely miss my mom for sure. But yeah, it was nice to have some freedom and be on my own for a little bit and just worry about me. It was really nice.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, you came to us before going off to university because you thought of, how studying went with high school?
Yeah. Especially the last, I would say grade 10 to grade 12, I really started to struggle with concentration, and in class as well, my vision would get very blurry, and it was getting to be a stress in it of itself because every time I went to the optometrist, they're like, oh, you're fine, it's nothing, it's fine, just don't stress, and that's not helpful at all.
I'm going away to university, I'm really stressed, what are you going
I can't just turn it off, so yeah.
Right. So that's good. You did see an optometrist. They checked for other things that may be contributing, and there was nothing they could do.
Yeah, I went multiple times because it progressively got worse and worse, and every time I noticed it got worse, I went back.
Okay.
But,
so what kinds of things were happening to make it worse?
So whenever we were in class, because technology is being used more and more, it would be projected onto the wall, and there are some colors that I couldn't see at all, and it was just so fuzzy most of the time, and it's fine when I'm on my own using my laptop because I can take breaks, but in class you can't really step away for a minute without missing anything,
So it became fuzzy. What other kinds of things were happening?
So I would see rivers in the text, which not only distracting, but also just brought my attention fully away, and the fuzzy text was the most difficult to deal with for sure.
Okay, I'm going to look back at your assessment in a minute and sort of go through some of those comments and things you had, but the key thing I think you had there was you didn't have a diagnosis of anything, right? You had no learning difficulties, no migraines, no autism. There was no formal diagnosis of any condition, and the optometrist ruled out any optical issues.
Yeah.
Now, how did you find out about us?
Well, Karen, we are family friends, so I've kind of watched Opticom grow as I did as well.
Yeah.
So
that's
family
funny.
friends.
No, I asked that. That was kind of a leading question because back it was 2012.
Yeah.
I had asked your mom because you were, I don't know, what would you have been then? 9 at the time. I was filming a visual stress awareness video, and I needed to have children. I think I used Anya's classmates in part of the video. And then I'm like, I'd like to have some other kids, really just to sort of stage what an assessment is like, the kind of things that we do. And I can remember way back then. Do you remember this?
I do. I remember seeing things in the paper and then being like, that's weird. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, because you didn't know any different. And I can remember when I was showing you the images and you were like, oh, everything's going like this. I think we even have I'll put a clip in this to show, but you were like, oh, it's doing this. I'm like, okay, don't address that now. Don't think about it. We're focusing on the video, but talk to her mom about this after. And I remember your mom saying, and fair for her, and it's the same thing with me when I had Nicholas test. He's fine. He reads fine. He's doing okay. There's nothing wrong. We'll test him with the optometrist. But because fortunately you knew what we were doing over the years, you're thinking, I think I need to go see Karen.
For sure, especially when optical issues were ruled out again, and I was going down memory lane, and I did watch that video before I came here. Yeah, it was really really fun to see 9-year-old me. But yeah, no, I did watch it and I was like, oh, that's similar to what I'm feeling now. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I think the important part about that is a lot of people will come to us or they'll bring their children to us because they've got diagnosed learning difficulties. They got diagnosed dyslexia or attention issues and things like that. And it leads them down this path of discovery. Whereas in your case, having none of that didn't help with giving the check marks of, okay, this is something that we need to look into. Well, I'm really glad you came.
Oh my God, thank you. I'm glad I came too. It's helped so much, especially in university. Just like my concentration has gone through the roof, and I don't need to take as many breaks, which in university cramming, you can't take breaks.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's definitely been really helpful.
Good,
for sure.
good.
Yeah.
Emma,
Yeah.
people often ask me, when should I wear my glasses?
Right.
So what have you found to be a good time to wear them and not wear them?
Definitely lectures, because again, like projections onto the wall are very hard to see for me. So definitely in lectures, and then absolutely when I'm studying, especially just like on my laptop when I'm going for hours on end or reading like the same part of a book for a book review over and over, it gets my brain a little jumbled.
Okay.
So it's really nice to have them in those two instances specifically. But I have been thinking about maybe like just integrating them a little bit more into daily life because street signs and like signs on the highway I can't read very well, so
but you know that's not a prescription. You don't need the prescription. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely mostly I use them for my education.
How do you find working? You're in a garden center.
Yeah.
So you are in nature. You're absolutely in the environment that's best for your eyes.
Yeah.
Is in nature with all the greenery and the natural colors.
Mm-hmm.
It's an office environment, maybe Walmart, shopping, classroom, those types of environments.
Yeah.
That they're going to be more helpful.
Oh, for sure. And there are instances where I don't have my glasses at work, and if I have to look up a price for a plant, and I have to like go through a list of all of the plants that we have, all of the sizes of that plant, all of the prices, there are definitely times where I'm
I should have my glasses.
Shoot, I should have my glasses.
Okay. So just thinking about that, what kind of computer do you use at work?
It's a laptop.
Like a PC, not an Apple?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is screen tinting software.
Okay.
Are you the only one using that computer?
It is shared, so that's why I feel a little bit awkward about it.
Yeah, well, it's something to think about trying. Mm-hmm. I know it's coming to the end of the summer, so you probably won't need to do it, but that's the kind of thing where if you know that it's just in that instance, you're in a natural environment, you're in the garden center, but it's just the computer. Not having to remember your glasses might be fine because you don't need to wear them all the time. Putting the screen tinting software on, and you can pick sort of a lilac blue color like your glasses. Yeah. But you're right, if you're sharing that computer with someone else, that may not be their color.
Yeah.
And that may actually make it harder for them to see. So what has been your experience with wearing them, and what people say? What kind of comments do you get when you're wearing them?
So a lot of people have asked if they're like Elton John glasses, which I think is really funny because it just makes me look cooler. But no, it hasn't been too much of a conversation, just because I think colored lenses have been integrated into fashion recently.
You're right.
Yeah, so it doesn't come up a lot, but people do get curious for sure.
And the good thing about your saturation, your lens saturation, is I can see your eyes clearly through them. So some people will come in with light sensitivity and maybe post-concussion, something like that. Their first lenses that they get are really dark, so you don't have a chance to see their eyes. Yeah. Whereas with yours, it kind of does look like a fashion tint, but because you can still see your eyes through it. But that's an important thing to actually mention is these are not fashion tints. These are medical tints. Yeah. And we went through a long process to get the right color.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm really grateful that we did. Like, you were really patient, going back and forth, and me going, wait, no, that one. Wait, no, that one. And it was really, really helpful.
Yeah. So. And that's fair. That's what we do. I actually had a client this week, and she was like, thank you so much for taking time to let me go through the yes, no, maybes. Like, it's the same at the optometrist. They give you A or B, and you compare them, and you narrow it down that way. That's what we do. That's our job. So don't need to apologize. That's the process. So anyway, thank you for that. I think Nico told me at one point, one of his teachers told him to take his glasses off. He can't wear sunglasses in the classroom. So his were quite a bit darker.
Right.
But I know that some schools are understanding more about filters, so they're not requesting that. But it's true, it happens. But we give everyone a little card that says these are not sunglasses.
Yeah.
These are an assistive device
Right.
for my education.
Yeah, no, I've never had teachers say anything about it. I think because I got them for university, and that's big lecture halls.
Yeah.
I'm sure,
More
like,
students.
in high school and elementary, with the smaller class sizes, I might have gotten more questions. But, yeah, no, teachers really haven't said anything.
Good. Okay, that's good. Okay, Emma, looking back at your experience now, we talked about realizing this when you were really little, but not really knowing what it was. Thinking more about it in grade 10 and how the struggles you were having that wasn't optometric, and then finally doing it after grade 12.
Yeah.
So you've had a bit of a history of learning. What would you say to, say, a younger person, your younger self, or parents of that person? What would you say to them about getting this done?
Your, like, visual issues are real, even though optometrists and other people might say, oh, you're just stressed. Like, yes, but that stress is causing you an issue that you need solved, and it's so worth it. It's been so helpful to have. I've noticed, like, my willingness to study has gone up, and then overall a change in my demeanor, because I'm not so stressed and anxious about problems that are out of my control, because they're in my control now. I can help with that. So yeah, it's really worth it, and you're better to do it sooner than later when it becomes a bigger issue, and the stress of not being able to see properly is causing you more stress in itself. So
that's a really good point. That makes a lot of sense. And even thinking back to, like, grade 10, if that optometrist had known about this and heard your symptoms, tested your eyes, okay, it's not your eyes, but those symptoms are still real.
Yeah.
Understanding about what visual stress is and the accommodations. If he had known 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he could have had this type of testing done for you.
Yeah.
And you would have been 2 years ahead. Not that that would have changed your path, but it would have made that grade 10, 11, 12 a little more easier, a little less stressful.
Yeah.
And great thing is you still had the confidence to go away to university and to face that, what you know was going to be a more intense learning environment.
Well, having the glasses definitely helped my confidence in being able to go away and say, I can do this. And, like, I still need my support system, but I can have a little bit of distance because I've got something that I know corrects the issue that I've been stressing about. So
great. What kind of accommodations and assistance did you have beforehand to help you with school?
Right. So I would normally take, again, a lot of breaks, just because my eyes, especially on my laptop with the virtual learning that we've been more acclimated towards, I'd been taking a lot of breaks, and yeah, it's, again, fine to do when I'm studying, even though not good for cramming, but in the classroom where I also have that issue, I can't stop as much and, like, let my eyes readjust, come back to me, and go back to it.
So Emma, I'm going to look back at my notes that we wrote from a year ago, sort of maybe bring up some points or ideas or things that we can discuss here. And the first thing I see on here was your visual stress symptom index was quite low. So that is an index that we use to identify someone who might qualify or might benefit for having an assessment. But in your case, it was low because you didn't have the pre-diagnosed conditions. You're not really sensitive to light. I don't think you're overly sensitive to patterns, or at least I'd asked you and you weren't quite sure. It's the reading and that fuzziness and some of the visual perception. So you came in right at the margin of seeing somebody, but I knew from our conversation that it was likely this was something that was going to help. So we have to be really careful with this rating of visual stress symptom index, because most of the people we see in the clinic are high. They are concussion, like chronic migraines, other kinds of brain injuries, and they're like, we're checking off the list heavy.
Yeah.
So in your case, like I said, you were sort of on the cusp there of being identified as someone we could help. Pattern sensitivity, though, when we did show you the patterns, I remember that when we showed you the patterns, you're like, whoa, they're waving, they're doing all sorts of things like this. And I've got it here, and you mentioned this yourself, rivers, doubling, intermittent blurriness, which you've talked about a bit here, is that you said, I think a minute ago, you said, I had to reset my brain. Yeah. So you're looking at something, it gets blurry, and you had to reset to get it to go clear again. And that takes time. And if you're trying to keep up with the class, you don't have time to do that reset.
I can't,
right? Swirling and color ribbons. What were the color ribbons? I don't remember that. I know I've got some pictures of those here.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like reds and yellows and that kind of thing just swirling through the page. Yeah.
Okay, and that's not right away, but after, always your perceptual distortions come on gradually the longer you're reading.
Yeah, so if, again, I'm rereading a portion of a text for a book review that I'm writing, I can't look at it for like more than 8 times over, which I need to do sometimes, but it gets too much. Like, it's blurry, there's rivers, there's color, and I'm like, whoa, like, okay. I need to take a step back here.
And if you're wearing your glasses, that makes you able to go longer?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Stops it?
So I am able to go a lot longer. I don't notice them.
So in the visual stress assessment, first we looked at pattern sensitivity. So we talked a little bit about that and the distortions, perceptual distortions you had. And then we looked at colored overlays. So I'm looking back at the report here, and it says, like, of the blues, you preferred sky. And sky is like a very light sort of purplish blue, not a greenish blue. And the next color you liked was purple, which was, it's more of a purple towards blue rather than a purple towards pink. So those were your 2 best overlays. And I remember when we went back and tested the overlays afterwards, you went with the purple was your preferred. And I think that's, I mean, your glasses are a blend of blue and purple right now. But the other colors, orange, rose, and magenta, the comment here was they're not good. You see the distortions. You still see the distortions. And sometimes people see even more discomfort with the colors that are opposite of their preferred choice. And on here you noted that gray did nothing.
Yeah.
So gray, when you put a gray overlay on text, it's as though you're just dimming down the contrast. And so it's not a color, so we're not filtering a certain wavelength, it's just dulling it down. It would be like wearing sunglasses inside that dull down all light. It ends up making it hard to see what you're looking at. Do you find that wearing these glasses make it dimmed down? Do you find it's changing the color of your environment?
It definitely, like, streams out the yellows more. So, like, when I, like, look up out of the rim of my glasses, everything is so yellow.
Okay.
But, no, it feels normal when I'm looking through them, and then only when I look out of them do I notice a difference.
Okay. And that's an important thing because your purple is the opposite of yellow. So if yellow was your sensitive color, then it would be one that you're more uncomfortable with.
Right.
For the perceptual distortions that you mentioned, you had rivers, intermittent blurring, the color. If you weren't wearing your glasses, would you find you'd need to use your finger to keep your place? What would you do in those instances?
There are times, especially on the computer, that I have to get really close and follow along. But yeah, I notice it more with technology. And the writing there than the writing in books, but definitely still need to reread sentences more than a couple times often.
So you're talking about when you're at work and you're trying to find a price list and you don't have your glasses. Okay.
It's hard.
It's hard. Well, that's good because that does even show you even more how the glasses are helping you in those instances. Good. So I'm looking here at the part of the assessment where we actually did the lens selection, and it's like when we're in the roses and pinks and getting towards the yellows, it was like, no, still distortions. Then we started getting towards the greens and they were good. It felt like it was gradually getting better, but it was when we got into the blues and purples that I wrote down here super best.
Yes.
Because I think you said,
absolutely.
No, that's the best one. And then we got to the next arrow and you said, no, that's the super best one. And we got super best. And so the final combination that you're wearing is a blue, mid-saturation blue, and almost equivalent mid-saturation purple. It's sort of an equal purple blue. We added UV, which you tolerated. Not everybody can tolerate the UV filter, which is good because that allows you to wear them in with sunlight.
Yeah.
They're still not very tinted though, so they're probably not dark enough. I don't have the percentage that it blocks, but they're probably not dark enough to wear sunglasses. If you were, and this is often what we suggest to our clients here, if you wanted to continue to wear them inside and outside, we'd suggest getting a sunglass clip-on to put on those. So we'd pick, probably with your color, we'd pick a gray and put we get a custom clip-on made to your frame, and then you could just snap that on when you're going outside, which allows you to still have your color. So you talked to me about driving and having trouble with seeing signs. If you could wear your sunglasses when you're driving, most of the time you can because it's not super bright and you've got the visor in your vehicle. By adding the sunglass clip on, it would give you that accommodation of the tint as well as the filter for sun. So something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of our clients, what we do is we actually just make their tint darker with gray. So they have 2 pair of glasses. But the sunglass clip-on is an easy fix for that.
For sure. Yeah, it sounds like it would help me a lot with the outside stuff.
In the garden center, inside and outside.
There you go. Perfect.
All right, so the next thing we do in the assessment after picking your lens color is we put it in that trial lens case, and we did a rate of reading test. So the rate of reading test is 4 separate word tests, all the same 15 words, but jumbled. They're not in the same order in any of the tests. And the first time and the last time we do it with the trial lenses, and the 2 times in between we do it without. And you had a 27% rate of reading improvement, which was really great. So while reading, I say significant improvement with lenses and overlays, reported words look jumbled without the filters. And so when we put the filters on, it stopped that blurring, jumbling movement. I'm just looking at my notes here. So 146 words read without error in the first instance with the glasses, and only 106 read the second time. And the comments here are, you were slower and more hesitant for sure, and then you told me afterwards it was jumbled. So that's what the rate of reading does, is it shows us the effectiveness of wearing the tint with and without when doing the same reading task. So like 146 words in the minute, 106 words in the minute. So quite a difference, which is how we got to that. We did it 2 other times, and all of the scores are averaged to get the rate of reading improvement. So that was great. So what that does is, I think that's the only objective measure of the improvement. Everything else you're telling me about how they're great and how they help here and there, that's all subjective. And but it's really good to have that coordinated improvement in your rate of reading. So I'm really glad that it's gone well for you.
Oh, absolutely.
The next thing that we suggest for people is, in your case, I would say next year you come back for a tint update. 2 reasons for that. First of all, your brain has learned, with the help of the accommodation, to manage the visual image better. So maybe over 2 years, maybe you don't need as saturated a tint, maybe the color shifts a little bit, maybe less blue or less purple, sometimes that happens, but really you may have a prescription, go to the optometrist. You should go every 2 years anyways. You're not at a point in your age where we should expect a change in your vision, because you're now in your 20s, and you're, how old are you now? 19?
I'm 19.
19, okay, sorry. You're just a little younger than Anya, who's 20. So you're at an age where puberty's done, not having babies yet. It's still like that whole hormonal changes, that kind of thing isn't happening. So it's still a good idea to see the optometrist every 2 years and get that checked, and then come back here next summer and we'll do a tint update to see if that's something that you need.
That sounds great.
When I walk around our neighborhood at night, and I remember back when you had the front room in the corner, I'd walk by and there'd be like a bluish purple light on in your room.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I have LEDs, and that's what gives me the most relief from eye tension and straining.
So you could go through all the different colors, and that's the color that you picked in your room?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I tried yellow because yellow is my favorite color, and I really enjoy it, but it was just too hard on my eyes to have that much yellow in my environment, but...
Your yellow sun on your shirt is nice and bright. So when walking around the neighborhood, I remember seeing yours, but then I would walk by and do my walks at night, and I would see, that room is turquoise, and that room is pink, and that room is blue. So I'm imagining all these kids up in their rooms picking their LED lights to their comfort color, and that actually is a really good indication that color might help you. If you find relief from a certain color, then it means that your brain and your visual system is comfortable in that color. So what does that mean for probably learning difficulties or learning challenges or sensitivities? You're sensitive to the other area of the spectrum. So it could be a good indicator for people or parents. If your child is always putting it on that color, it might mean that there's maybe color can help them in other ways as well. So it's just fun that your color is the same as pretty much what your glasses color is. So if somebody was thinking of getting LED lights for themselves, they'd have to keep in mind what other people around them would be comfortable with. Same thing like we talked about with the screen tinting software. If you're sharing a computer with somebody, there has to be a quick switch from your purpley blue to their whatever other color they have. So all these different accommodations, overlays, paper, screen tinting software, lighting, those are all things that can be used initially before even going the step of going for precision tinted lenses. But it's that's probably the best solution, because then it filters everything. You don't have to worry about customizing it for other people. So thank you very much, Emma, for your time today. I really appreciate hearing your story, and I'm so glad that we could help you with
Me
through
too.
the lenses for your last year of university. So you're leaving, you've got school in probably about 4 weeks?
Yeah, I leave September 1st to go back to Nova Scotia.
Wow,
So.
that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
You're in the right environment for someone with visual stress, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you for listening to Emma's story. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to help increase visual stress awareness. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you here and across our social media channels. Thanks.